It's the Happy Families Podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
Last week on the Happy Families podcast, I had a fascinating and really delightful conversation with Karina Savage. Karina is a pediatric dietitian. She runs Nourishing Kids. You can find her at nourishwithkarina.com. Link to that in the show notes. But we almost talked about something that I have always wanted to know about. I've nearly bought several books about it, but I'm not a dietitian and I don't really want to spend 10 hours and 250 pages reading about it. I just want somebody to give me the facts, especially as it relates to kids. And Karina said she'd come back and do that. And so this podcast really for me, I'm being a little bit selfish, but we'll make it about parenting. We'll make it about kids as well. But really, I just want to know about this gut biome thing because I've been told if I have a healthy gut, then I'm going to do better in life or something. I don't really get it. I think I'm going to sleep better or my brain's going to work better. I'll have more energy. I don't get it. I don't even know what my gut biome is. Karina Savage is going to help me with that. Karina, thanks for joining me today again.
Pleasure. Great to be here.
So you've been a pediatric dietitian for 23 years, and when I mentioned gut biome stuff, your eyes lit up and you said, "Oh my goodness, we've got to talk about that." And of course, we got too busy talking about other things. If I'm brand new to this idea, I haven't even heard the word, or maybe I've heard people talk about having a healthy gut, but I don't really get what this biome thing is. In other words, if my name is Justin Coulson, I'm now talking to a dietitian about it. Give us the 30-second Reader's Digest version of it. What is the gut biome?
So the gut biome or the gut microbiome is really to do with the bacterial communities in your gut.
So this is the whole probiotic sort of thing. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Right.
So it's to do with the bacteria in your gut because we have a lot of bacteria in our gut, like gazillions of bacteria in our gut. And what we want is we want a really good balance of the good bugs and the bad bugs in our gut so that...
we want bad bugs in our gut.
A balance, yes.
Right.
We want a balance, yeah. Mostly good, but we want that balance because you really need, it's what we call a symbiosis, where there's a balance of the good and the bad bugs and everything is in balance. Everything is in, I guess, with the terminology is symbiosis. So it's a dysbiosis when we have an imbalance of the good bugs and the bad bugs, when more of the bad bugs are populating and growing, and a poor diet will contribute to that. But there are many factors that influence our gut microbiome, and we try to rectify it by taking probiotics to put more of the good bugs in.
Right.
But there's many factors. So right from when you're in utero is when your gut microbiome starts developing, and we're influenced by multiple factors to do with our mother in utero. Then when we are born, our mode of delivery impacts our gut microbiome.
I've heard about this. So if you're a Caesar baby versus a vaginal birth baby, your biome changes. Like you have a different microbiome depending on how you're actually born.
Correct. So when you're born vaginally, you pick up microbes associated with your mother down that end.
Right.
And then when you're born out of the sunroof by a C-section.
Out of the hatch, yep.
You pick up microbes associated with the skin and the hospital environment. And there's been a lot of research into this and then linked to increased risk of allergies, obesity and whatnot with the different mode of delivery. And
not that we're trying to shame any parents who have had a Caesar because sometimes you've just got to do these things.
Baby,
right. And you turned out fine, right? Yeah, that's right.
Well, let's do it.
So, but when I have these conversations, or not about this, but about these kinds of topics, a lot of people there's shame and guilt around all this sort of stuff.
There's no shame.
We're just highlighting there's risks associated with one thing that don't exist with the other thing. That's not we're not throwing shade at anyone.
Absolutely. And yeah, sorry, I was going to say, at the end of the day, the most important thing is the baby's born healthy, right? So, there's absolutely no guilt or shame.
Karina, tell me this. What are the benefits to having a symbiotic, here we go, I'm using all my big words that I've just learned. What are the benefits of having a symbiotic gut microbiome?
Yeah. So when you've got a symbiotic, a healthy gut microbiome, your immune system is working much better because most of our immune system, about 70% of our immune system is actually in the gastrointestinal tract.
Oh,
so
wow.
what we want is we want our cells in our gut to have tight cell junctions. We want a thick mucus layer, and that helps protect all the baddies. So when we eat, we eat food, we breathe, and we get exposed to viruses and bugs all the time. But what happens is they go into our gut, our immune system works, it keeps them out, we poo them out again, right? It's when we've got loose cell junctions, we get a leaky gut, when our mucus layer is not thick and protecting our our body as it should be, that's when we're more prone to getting sick. And so that's why we need a strong gut microbiome. We need strong gut health, because that's most of where our immune system is. Now, our microbes also are like messengers. So when they metabolize food, they also produce messages and metabolites, and that impacts, it's a gut-brain axis. It impacts so many parts of our health.
All right, this is fascinating to me. I have 73 questions for you based on what you just said. Let's go bit by bit. Something that I've noticed, I'm just a person who I only get sick once or twice a year, and it's usually because I'm run down. It's because I'm exhausted. But I've watched friends of the family or whatever over the years, and they're always sick. The kids are always sick. People, and so what I'm hearing you say is much of this could be linked to gut biome health, which therefore is linked to the way we're eating. I mean, that's fundamentally,
absolutely.
If we're getting our diet right, and my diet's not fabulous, but it's, let me rephrase, I've actually got a pretty good diet, but I chuck a bit of bad food in there with all the good stuff.
Yeah.
But if somebody's not getting all the good stuff, then they're throwing their gut out of balance. It's no longer symbiotic. It's, what did you say, dysbiotic?
Dysbiotic, yep.
Yeah.
Imbalance, yeah.
Right.
You've done well.
I'm trying to be a quick learner here. So how do we get a healthy gut? How do we get our gut healthy so that we can not get crook every time somebody sneezes near us?
Yeah. So, as I said, those first 3 years are pretty influential in setting up a really healthy immune system. It effectively puts a health stamp on us. But then from then on, healthy diet, basically using probiotics if needed. I use probiotics in certain cases, especially in the allergy world. We've got lots of kids with allergies, but it's about plant foods is at the end of the day.
Yeah,
You'll
right.
hear this word prebiotics.
Yep.
It's the sexy name for fibre. Okay.
Oh.
So plant foods feed the gut bugs and they populate the good bugs in our gut. That's really what we need. Junk food will populate the bad bugs. If we're not feeding fibre into our gut, then our gut bugs aren't fed. And then they actually turn on our own mucus layer in our gut. And that's when it becomes patchy. So we need fibre, we need plant foods. So plenty of wholesome fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, grainy carbs, legumes, baked beans, all of those foods, oats, porridge. Putting fibre into our gut feeds the good bugs, and that in turn keeps our immune system strong.
I'm hearing you say this and my brain is exploding because an orange day. I know everyone says an apple a day keeps the doctor away, but for me, it's an orange. Whenever the kids are sick, whenever the kids have like a mouth ulcer or a headache or anything, I'm like, if you just have an orange every day, you'll be okay. And what I'm hearing you really say is the orange provides all this fibre, which healthies up the microbiome in the gut, makes it more symbiotic, makes it more healthy, and that works. Let me ask you this. I'm thinking as you're talking about this this lack of health from too much bad food, inflammation is a word that popped into my head as you were talking about this. To what extent do we see inflammation as a result of a poor biome? Am I in the right ballpark here, or is this a totally different thing?
Yeah. So no, again, poor diet influences the gut microbes, and then that drives inflammation. So poor diet can also directly impact on inflammation. So high sugar, high food chemicals, it's all related. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. So my sense, therefore, is that if we can get more fibre into our kids' diets and into our own diets, we're going to be healthier. We're going to do better at school or better at work. We're going to be more energetic. We're going to sleep better. We're going to have better immune function. Like there's no downsides. It's only upside if we can get that fibre in. Which brings me to the big challenging question. I know we sort of touched on this a bit last week, but as a parent who has a couple of kids who aren't really big on eating all of the green leafy vegetables or any vegetables at all, really, and they just like the beige diet. How do you get that fibre into them? How do you get them to take that on? I mean, I know there's hiding food in the lasagna. You can grate up the zucchini and the carrot and stick it in the lasagna, but they're not getting a lot of zucchini when they're eating it grated up in the lasagna. So how do we do this? I mean, one of my kids, when we have wraps, she'll have a little bit of meat, complains about it. She takes all the beans out of it that we put in there, and then she'll have cheese and pineapple on a white wrap, okay? And I'm like, you got to have something green. And so she'll put a spinach leaf on there.
A pea?
Yeah, that's right. It'll be the smallest little piece of green. She's like, I've got green. I'm like, come on. That is not. And what I'm hearing you say, if I had the language for it, I would say that is not feeding the good prebiotic. I've forgotten the words.
The good bugs in your gut.
The good bugs in your gut. That's right. It's not doing that. So how do we do this? How do we get them to put the good food on the wrap? How do we get them to get the fibre into their body so that they're eating that food that makes their gut healthy?
Well, first of all, I'd say we need to focus on small changes done consistently, because over time it will make a big difference. So I encourage parents to offer 6 times a day, whatever they're eating, put a little bit of colour next to it. So next to breakfast, put a couple of blueberries. Next to their morning tea, put something that's plant or fruit or vegetable related, and often it's in the lunchbox. And often at schools they do like a crunch and sip or something like that, brain break, fruit break, in their lunchbox. Or if they're at home having a cheese toastie, put a cherry tomato and a tiny bit of carrot next to their lunch. So they become used to seeing colour. Same with afternoon tea, same with dinner, same with supper. Making it fun is a good one. Dressing vegetables so they taste good. I don't mind some mayonnaise, some lemon and olive oil is great on broccoli. If you have to put a bit of salt on it, doesn't matter, because if it gets them enjoying food, then that's a win. And then you can always pull back on the salt later. So I think making food fun, tasty, offering it throughout the day is an important one.
You just reminded me, one thing that she will eat is we get kale, and I can't remember what we do with it. I think that we sort of shake it up with a little bit of oil or something, just drizzle it with some oil, and then we stick it in the oven, and we create kale chips. Yeah, loves that. Loves that. Maybe we've just got to do more kale chips and that sort of stuff.
Absolutely. So focus on the positives. I'm like, focus on what they are eating and build on that.
Yeah, so even if it's fried in the oven with a bit of oil, or baked in the oven with a bit of oil or whatever, and a bit of salt, you're still saying better that they get that fibre into them than not, even if it's got
Absolutely.
Yeah, interesting. Okay.
Extra virgin olive oil, I think, is liquid gold. Like, it's amazing. So use as much of that. There's no low fat here. Like, using good fats. Yeah.
Got it. I love this. All right. Something you said earlier, Karina, is that the first 3 years is where the foundations of good gut health are laid. Now, for many of us, we've already got kids that are well beyond those first 3 years, but there are a lot of podcast listeners who are definitely in that phase where they've got kids who are, in the first 3 years, there's a lot less fussiness, right? Kids kind of almost eat whatever you stick on the high chair tray. What can parents do with their little kids? We know that there's some things that you've got little say in. Okay, sometimes you try to breastfeed, but you don't produce milk, or there's breastfeeding challenges. Obviously, whether it's a Caesar or a natural birth, sometimes there's limited control over what's going on there. But once the child's in the world and you've got some control over the diet, the food that's going in their mouth, what do you do there? Is it again just about trying to stuff them full of fruit and veggies? Do you throw olives on the tray and hope that they stick one of those in their mouth and like it? How do you make this work?
So I encourage parents to give little ones as much variety as possible in a non-pressurized way. So throw lots of variety at them when they're young and let them explore, let them get their fingers in it, let them smush it all over their face. And I'm talking about like a 10, 12-month-old. Let them explore food with all of their senses, because that's how they develop and build that familiarity and trust in the food. And then they learn to like these foods over time. You've got this early window of opportunity to really expose them to the world in a non-pressurized way. Let them eat as much as they want and be okay if they don't want it, because kids have an innate ability to self-regulate their appetite and eat what they need. So it's about us providing a really positive environment with lots of exposure to all these lovely fruits and vegetables and, bowls of porridge or Wheat Bix, but not pressuring them to eat it. Just let them enjoy and learn about this food, because they will then come to like these foods if offered in a, non-pressurized, fun way.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you mentioned control. It's such an important factor here. The more you push, right, force creates resistance.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that we as parents find really hard, because we value nutrition, we value health. A lot of the parents that I work with inside Nourishing Kids, they're worried about their child not getting enough nutrition, because they know we're always told that our kids need good food, but it's like, well, how do we make that happen? And that's where I come in to say, like, this is how we set up a healthy feeding environment for a toddler. This is how we set up a feeding environment for a fussy eater, because we just need to remember that kids will learn to like these foods. We just need to set up a really non-pressurized way, because if we create anxiety at the in the high chair at the dinner table, the walls go up, and then we've lost that ability for that mealtime for them to explore food, and we lose that connection time as a family too, because connecting at dinner time is really valuable, and it's something that we really need to cherish and try and bring back. Not enough families are connecting at the dinner table these days.
Karina Savage is a pediatric dietitian. She's been doing it for a couple of decades. I nearly aged you more than I should have. I've been a bit self-indulgent today trying to learn about this gut microbiome, but I've learned a lot today. Thank you for being patient with me. Karina lives in Sydney with her husband and 2 kids and is the founder of Nourishing Kids, where she helps parents create healthy eaters stress-free. Karina is a regular on National Morning TV on Sunrise on 7 and also has her own podcast. You can check it out at the Easy Feed. We will link to the Easy Feed. We'll also link to Nourishing Kids and nourishwithkarina.com. Karina, really appreciate generosity in sharing your time and expertise again. Hopefully this has been, well, I know it's been helpful for me. Hopefully it's been helpful for a bunch of parents who are listening.
Pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rulon from Bridge Media. More info in the show notes if you'd like to figure out how you can get your kids improving their gut health with Karina and the work that she does at Nourishing Kids. And more information about making your family happier is available at happyfamilies.com.au, or check out our social pages, Dr. Justin Coulson's Happy Families on Facebook and Instagram.